Okay, welcome Patty, welcome everybody. This is Everyday Buddha number 4. This is Eddie Matsumoto. I'm the host and I have a special guest. Well, every time it's a special guest. But I have Patti Levin today. She is, actually I forgot to ask you how you want to be introduced. But so I'm just going to introduce what I know about you and then you can chime in and introduce yourself. Anyway, I met Patti, I don't know, 5 years ago, something like that, in one of the Zoom meetings. And if you meet her, you just have to know her because she organizes everything. She takes care of everything and everybody. And I am one of them. I call her Nana because she takes care of me when I get in trouble. Yeah, so she's just wonderful. She's a retired psychologist, and so I would like to hear more about that. And also I heard a little bit about your journey because I interviewed her for my Japanese group, Finders group. So I heard a little bit about your journey, but I would love to hear more and that you share with the audience. So let's see. Oh, but I just want to say she's wonderful, sweet, kind, smart, cool, decisive, funny, and all of that, and beautiful.
Oh,
So
great.
Anyway, so would you like have something to add? So you can introduce yourself now.
I have nothing to add. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Because it feels like there's a whole lot less than that, but that's also
a whole lot
wonderful.
more. But maybe you can tell us, maybe we can start with your journey. Actually, I would like to hear more about your psychologist today when you are working professionally, and I have some questions around that. So if you can start from there and then how you got into this, awakening course, and then how you're continuing your activities and taking care of everybody. So whatever you want to share, we're gonna go with the flow.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Well, I guess I should start by saying that I'm an enneagram 2, which is the caretaker. And that hasn't changed. Even once I woke up, nothing has changed.
I'm surprised.
My mother must have been, and so was my Nana. Caretakers, all of them. Anyway, so I had 45 years as a psychologist, and it was clearly meant to be because I started when I was about 12 years old, and I did family therapy for my parents and my sister. And I was a complete failure.
Oh, in what sense? You couldn't.
I was 12 years old.
Oh.
What does anybody know at 12 years old? I did get a little bit more successful over time. I did a lot of work around trauma, psychological, physical trauma. I did my pre and postdoctorate internships with Bessel van der Kolk in the trauma center in Boston, and that was an extraordinary experience. And then, well, I kept my private practice all the way through grad school and afterwards. And I've actually been in a peer consultation group with Bessel for 30 years. So we're dear friends. But at a certain point, well, my husband started talking about retiring. He's 7 years younger. And the more he talked about retiring, the more I thought, I wonder if I should retire or want to retire or whatever. And then it just stuck in my head. And then my son, who is now 43, my older son, had taken, excuse me, the Finders Course 3. And he said, Mom, you might want to take this meditation course and learn how to meditate for when you retire. My son had been a seeker. I was never a seeker, even though my second marriage was with a seeker. It didn't really rub off on me. Now, that said, I was an astrologer at the age of 22, and I read Edgar Cayce, and I did all that stuff, but I couldn't have told you what awakening or enlightenment was. And when I took the Finder's course, in 2015, I wasn't looking to wake up because I still had no idea what that meant. And I was, I scored a 9 on the happiness scale. So it wasn't that I was
already
suffering.
before that.
Yeah, I didn't come from I didn't have any childhood trauma, and I had some shitty things happen to me as an adult, but I was still a very happy person. And like Amy says, I guess I have a positive bent, a positive. Yeah, I'm an optimist. People used to call me rosy colored glasses. And that's remained. That's still here. So, I took the Finders course, Finders 4, and I did everything I was supposed to. I have always just been that kind of student. And I think about 6 weeks in, one day, Jeffrey said in a video recording, people almost never wake up when they're meditating. And so that I just let go of that, because of course I got inducted into the transitioning idea onto the continuum by just taking the course. So the next day I was meditating, and I remember very clearly I was doing the eraser body scan meditation, and kind of I must have scanned once or twice, and then everything went, God, it must have just been bright white or colored or something. It just vanished. Everything vanished. And I knew something had happened. I had no idea what, and I had no idea if it was going to last. But I got up from that meditation and walked around and just did everyday, ordinary things. And I slowly realized the anxiety gene that I had come into the world with was gone. Well, I don't know if the gene was gone, but there was no more anxiety. Gone. And believe me, I had done a lot of work on that in therapy and medication and EMDR and you name it. And the other thing that was gone was that empty feeling of kind of existential angst and worry that I had from the time my kids left home for good. That was gone. So no more worry, no more anxiety, just equanimity. And it was amazing. So then what happened was, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks later, I must have had an argument with my husband, my barometer, or something happened, and I felt like I lost it, like I fell out of fundamental well-being or PNSE, persistent non-symbolic experience, and I was miserable. And I cried to my husband, who had basically been saying the Finders course was a cult. But he said, honey, you did it once, you'll do it again. And if I knew then what I know now, I hadn't fallen out of it. I had just had some everyday, what we might call negative experiences. Negative emotions, right? But I had the expectation, which a lot of people do, that once you transition, you never have another negative moment, right? It's all bliss and bunnies. It's not. So I did a group awareness exercise with my little group, and I got it back, and then I lost it again, and then I got it back, and then somebody said, you should meet with Fred Davis. He's amazing. And so I did. And that was it for me. It locked in. So that was March. Let's see, my first transition was March 6th, 2015. About a year later, almost exactly to the date, I was in a meetup. It was one of my meetups, maybe my oscillation meetup. And Michael Lydon said, can I do a guided meditation? And we all said, fine. And of all things, it was on self-love. And what happened to me was when I opened my eyes from the guided meditation, I had no idea who the woman on the camera was staring back at me. She was gone. Luckily, Michael was there and Amy was there, and unusual for Amy to have been at my meetup, and a number of other of our wonderful community members who were just so supportive. However, I wasn't worried. It just was discombobulating, really.
Yeah.
And then I met with Ishita, and that was helpful. And just little by little, it started sinking in and staying. And, I could say I was in location 4. I don't know. I got invited to the location 4 support group. I went. Everybody seemed to have different experiences, but it was a lot of fun. And since then, what seems to have happened is that there's more fullness in the emptiness, is one way to put it. There's joy, there's equanimity, there's peace. There's also emotions and feelings. Now, these days, and we're talking 6 years later, when a feeling like anger or annoyance will arise, it's gone within 30 seconds or a minute. I mean, it almost never lasts longer than that.
Okay.
But it happens. It happens. Sadness arises. I'll cry. Crying is beautiful. And all of those feelings are now seen or realized as perfectly okay. They just, whatever arises is just the way it is. And it's great. So I guess I'm in my 7th year of what Jeffrey would say the 7-year cycle. I have no idea, but I don't need to analyze it. I know I don't need to analyze anything. The conditioning arises every once in a while. I just notice it and I let it go.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I am at the moment.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, thank you for summarizing that journey so beautifully. So I'm curious, I just want to go back to the part when you were Zoom after the guided meditation, you open your eyes and there's this kind of woman figure over there. You had no idea who that was. And then, the other people helped you out. So what was that journey like from there? Like you don't know that person, what that is, to reconcile. So who is it for you? So how did you reconcile that figure, action figure or unit or whatever the Fred Davis's term is unit sometimes, but so what's the relationship between you and that person, the body?
Well, there's very much a body. I can tell you I get aches and pains. I had a knee replacement 6 months ago.
That's
I
right.
felt that.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a Patti body here. And there's elements of Patti that arise. And I don't seem to have a lot of control over it, although I don't really think about whether or not I have control over it, or there's free will or there's no free will. I don't, the beliefs are pretty much gone. It just flows. So what flowed at that time was just a sense of, okay, there's no strong Patti identity, but there's still Patti things, still Patti preferences. I still like certain kinds of sheets and pillows and the way my clothes feel and certain foods and all of that. But the love changed, that was a very interesting thing. Love became, I would say at first, less personal and more everything. I can feel personal love. I don't know if it's really personal is the right word for it, but I can feel love very deeply. And I do for all of the people I love, which are not just my children and grandchildren, but you and people in our community, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my husband's question is always something like, do you really love Donald Trump? What about Hitler?
And what do you say?
I say I have love for them and I have a lot of compassion for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I, you know, again, I don't worry about it. I don't fuss about it. I don't try to analyze it. I just let it be. And that's the way it is. Now, I would say that there must still be some sense of agency because a lot of stuff gets done, ideas come up, they happen, plans get made,
Mm-hmm.
but it all seems effortless. That's really the way it feels, effortless.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious. What kind of thing, you said still emotions comes up, although it passes in 30 seconds, but what pattiness get triggered? Just something your husband or something you hear, certain people or certain situation?
Mostly it's my husband, whom I adore, and he's a wonderful human being. But, you know, I have conditioning over around, I don't know, whatever that arises. And if he interrupts somebody that we're with too often, you know, I feel that sense of annoyance rising since we've talked about it a lot. But then it goes and I just surrender to who he is and that it's all okay. And I can't change him. I can't change anyone. There is no one to change. So it comes and goes. And I know it's a knowing now that it will come and
Do
go.
you share with your husband? Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Do you share your husband about, having agency, or well, you might have agency left, but there's no patty left. There's a pattiness, but there's no self. And that things unfold. So do you share that kind of thing with your husband, and is he on board? Okay.
No.
So, no?
No, because I mean, I've kind of ventured into that a little bit, but A, he doesn't believe it. B, he doesn't understand it. And C, he thinks I'm making it up or I'm crazy or, you know, I'm under the influence or something. So it just doesn't become a conversation. Did you just get a text?
Yes. Well, today I have an assistant for the first time. So after 3 weeks, I was telling Patty I got promoted to have an assistant. And we have 8 people watching live, but no questions so far. So yay, Patty. And yeah, so far, maybe not too many people watching live, but actually we're getting more views after I leave it on Facebook, or sometimes I just started to put on YouTube. I'll ask you if you want me to, it's okay to do YouTube.
Of course. Of course it's okay. Sure.
But then like some of them are getting 900 views and 600 views, and it's pretty amazing. I have no idea who's watching it, but certainly some people are interested. And with your experience of those, not seeing Patty, where is Patty? Who is that woman staring at me? So I think that kind of experience, and then you being, you're like a superwoman, but still you're like an ordinary person, you and me, and it's not like Maharishi Maheshi or Ramana Maharshi, not that kind of person. Well, they might say they're ordinary. I have no idea. But that might kind of pique some interest in some people to, join our community or just get interested in, meditating or things like that. Okay, I have questioned the other one I was thinking about. This might get into a little bit more analytic, so to speak. When you're talking about love, you just feel love for a lot of people. And you were saying whether if it's personal or more universal, like you just love humanity or every life. So, we within our we make a little distinction between location 3, location 4. 3 is more like, no, actually there are people, the object of love. You love somebody, or you love this person, that person, versus there's me, the person, or love God, or God loves me. Versus when you go to location 4, like there's no distinction. Like, we are all the same, just, love itself. There's no loving person or being loved. So do you have any comment, like how does it feel like, are you in location 3? You may already mention you might be location 4, but what is it that love feel like? Is there a person loving or being loved?
Oh, right. Okay. So I was in location 3 for, I don't know, maybe 9 months before this experience happened where I lost that whoever she is.
Okay.
And then I think I was in location 4 for a while, but the love feeling was definitely felt different during that period. It definitely felt less there was less substance to it. I don't know how to describe it really, but it was beautiful, but it was less joyful than location 3. And yet there was so much freedom that made the whole experience just amazing. At this point, I don't know where I am. I would say I'm in location 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who knows? I mean, I know in location 5, emotions come back. It's the path to humanity. That's the way Jeffrey describes it. And I do know that I have visual changes, colors just make me, I'm going to say crazy, but I don't mean crazy. I mean, when I see colors, I mean, I am looking at the colors in your Zoom room and this pink that I put on today, and colors just stop me in my tracks, and they are just magnificent. And sometimes they get pixelated. So at the beginning, when that first started happening, it was a little bit dangerous because I could be driving and then see a sign, and my attention was riveted to that sign. And obviously, when you're driving, you have to pay attention. So there are those changes. It feels like there's no attachment to the identity of Patti. There's not a lot of ego going on. About being a doctor, for instance. I don't even think about that anymore. The only thing that remains of it is my email, and who knows, maybe that will change one day. But I know I'm a mother. I know I'm a grandmother. I know I'm married. I know I have friends. And yet, if I were at a cocktail party, which I don't really go to, and somebody said, "What do you do?" I would say, I don't know what I would say. I would say, do I be? I don't do.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? We have had the Finders Course reunion, and we do say, "Hi, I'm, Eddie, and I live in such and such place." But if we really go into, being state, what conversation would that be? We cannot even say I, like who is I, like what is I? Everybody's saying, this unit, is, housing over there, and then seem to go to work and make living doing this and that. So the whole conversation, the whole language has to shift. Yeah, I personally had trouble saying I for like a few months, like, who is I? Like I have to, should I call Eddie? Eddie did this, Eddie did that. So that kind of thing happens sometimes. Yeah. So yeah.
I was just going to say, we have people in the community who just say here. or this being or any of that. And that just never kicked in for this unit or for me. I can still say me, I can still say I, but it's not, I know what I mean by that. You know what I mean by that. And I don't think anybody else cares. Not that I care or not that you care. But I mean, the exemplar program has been very helpful for being in the world, being maybe not being of the world, but being in the world and not creating those kinds of uncomfortable or awkward situations for other people. So, I mean, you wouldn't go and say to the first thing to somebody, oh, I'm awake, right? I mean, that would be ridiculous because if you would say that, you probably weren't awake, but nor would you say, I mean, I don't really talk about this experience or whatever it is to anyone other than people in our community. And my oldest son who preceded me. So, but I can talk to my kids, I can talk to my sister, I can talk to a couple of my best friends about it, and they don't, they understand where I'm coming from. So it's not an issue, really. It just is. And there's no grabbing for it at this point. There's no needing. Oh, I did say once to my husband, I don't need you anymore. That was a disaster. Because he said, if you don't need me, then you don't love me. And I said, but I love you. I just don't need you. And that became a little argument for a while. We've finally dropped it. I'm not sure if he understands it yet, but it was probably a mistake to say it. Whatever. Sometimes I have no idea what's going to come out of this mouth, and it just comes out.
Right. I guess that's the thing. We have to be careful sometimes how to talk to people outside of our community, because things like that comes out, and I can totally understand that. I might even say that to my husband, but he won't, understand probably. But I love him, but right. I can see that. But, that's the kind of, things when you're in the society, there's certain, I guess it's a conditioning.
Yes.
Like if somebody says, I don't need you, that means certain things, but that's not what we mean exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
but there's a fear. Right. There's a fear among people who still have that need thing going on, that if you're not needed, then you can, I could just run away, or, he could lose me or something. He's not losing me. There's no me for him to lose. He doesn't understand that part, but that's irrelevant anyway. I'm not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah, in a sense, we don't need anything and anybody, just as an entity, the unit or beyond the unit that's kind of hovering around this unit. It's just kind of happy by itself, you just don't need anything. And there's no separate unit, separate, things anyway. So it doesn't need anything. But you kind of have to explain and see if the person understands, how much the person understands. So I think that's why it's good to have the community. So you don't have to explain this. And we just say, well, I don't need you. And great. Patti, I don't need you. I love you, but I don't need you. And we just understand each other. Like, I just love you, but I don't need you. But the love doesn't change.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I want to circle back to the question I had. One thing I wanted to ask, you is somebody, Ken Wilber or somebody, just because, you are retired psychologist and you practice for so many years. Somebody said that, the spirituality is like an extension of psychology. And in the modern world, psychology, psychotherapy, that can do up to a point. But then spirituality, at least right now, certain spirituality can take over the rest, what psychology cannot take care of. So I just wanted to see what you think about that. Is that like a linear thing? It's not linear. I think a lot of overlapping too. but something that goes beyond that trauma, that childhood trauma, or divorcing, grief, that kind of thing. So I think the therapy can take care of a lot of things up to a point, but beyond that, something you mentioned, existential angst or other things, so that may not be taken care of with psychology, but maybe spirituality, or that shift or transformation you experience, that might, I don't want to say take care of it, but it just kind of resolve that the problem, or the problem doesn't exist anymore. So can you comment on
Exactly.
that? Yeah.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that they're a lovely combination, psychotherapy and spirituality or awakening. And I think it seems to be very individual. Some people need to do a lot of growing up and cleaning up, in Ken Wilber's terms,
Right.
before they wake up. And other people
Mhm.
need to wake up first, and then it's easier for them to do the growing up and cleaning up and
Mhm.
deconditioning.
Mhm.
Doing it, I think it probably makes sense doing that kind of deconditioning, growing up, whatever, from a more stable base, which is such a funny thing to say, isn't it? From a consistent equanimity, right?
Mhm.
Makes it, I think, kind of easier. At the same time, people have said to me, well, I don't want to go back into therapy now that I've transitioned, because I don't
Mhm.
want to analyze a whole lot of stuff. And
Right.
so I've said, well, try it out, see what it's like, and make sure that you do your practices, you meditate, or make sure you do a random timer to sink in,
Mhm.
so that you're not only in the analytic world, but you're kind of keeping a foot in both, so to speak.
Mhm.
So I think they're beautiful together, and it will vary who needs what when. I know for me, I certainly had 100 years of psychotherapy before I took the finder's course, and it probably did lots of stuff for me. I know it did a lot of stuff, but the transition, the finding my true nature, whatever you want to call it, that made a huge difference, huge difference. And that's, boy, if anybody is looking for that, this is what I would suggest, because this is something unlike anything that I had ever known before. And it can happen. It doesn't have to just happen in the finder's course
Mhm.
or community. I mean, lots of people transition after the course in the community, and
Mhm.
there are people who transition, as you know, stepping off a bus or writing an email or
Right. Yeah.
waking up or whatever,
Mhm.
by grace.
Yeah. Just walking down the street, or tripping over a banana peel, or who knows,
Yeah,
why and what
right.
happens. But it sounds like in your case, you had all this psychotherapy. You already had the cleaning up and growing up before you went into the finder's course, and you kind of think it helped kind of keep it
A
nice
lot.
and clean. You don't have,
Yeah.
you already had the happy nature, but on top of that, you did the cleaning up, growing up, and then you are just kind of ready to take on, and just being open-minded, and just did all the exercises, and boom.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Boom is right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
I think some other teachers, spiritual teachers, have this burn experience, and then they don't go into the cleaning up and growing up, and some people get in trouble because they don't look back and analyze, as you said. So skip that part, and they might get in trouble.
Right.
But on the other hand, I wanted to also mention some teachers that I respect, like Adyashanti, or I heard that from other people too. A lot of things they do as a spiritual teacher. And I've been to a couple of retreats, not too many, but I've been to a couple of retreats or Zooms. But I think Adyashanti says about 80 to 90% of the questions he gets is what psychologists can do. It's about the trauma, it's about the divorce, and
Right.
the grief. And so he's basically been a therapist for 90% of the time. And the spirituality, like this much. So,
Right. It's true.
yeah.
Because
Mhm.
that's the stuff that, people don't expect. They don't expect that baggage to follow them into awakening. And yet that baggage follows most people, not everyone, but follows most people. And it's, just the body keeps the score. That's always true.
Mhm.
And it will come up. And it's at a certain point, it's realized that these things that arise, these old conditionings, are wonderful to understand new things, or to just see them and sit with them and surrender to them, and then they are gone, or they pop up again and then they're gone. Who knows? It'll probably go on forever.
Right. And I have interviewed other people or just casual conversation. A lot of people are still not seeking anymore, but they're either curious or want to continue improving, or just, dabbling, reading, watching YouTube or whatever. So do you still do that? You just kind of listen to podcasts or read books or something?
I do, although much less than I did. I've been enjoying Sam Harris, a couple of his interviews. I was intrigued by his interview with Jim Newman and Rupert Spira, and then most intrigued by his interview with Brittany Willoughby Britton and her husband. I can't remember his name, but it was he talked a lot about non-duality in it. And I highly recommend it. And the last thing that I listened to of his was on the final word on free will, which is a funny way of putting it. So I've been enjoying that. The most recent thing I've done is David Kennedy has been doing a monthly DAT, direct awakening transmission, which is an energy method that we kind of put together in the community. And it's just become more powerful. And I co-hosted with him a month ago when he did the first one for a core session on a weekend, and it was so powerful. And I'm vortex healing trained, so I have a lot of those tools, so to speak. But I got up after that 2.5-hour meetup where there were 42 people in the room, and I think 2 people left at the 2-hour mark. So that was an amazing. We just did another one, 2 hours. Almost no one left early. But that one a month ago, I got up and I lay down and I ran DAT, which is basically all you have to do. And I was asleep in a second. And I've been, every time I lie down now, which I try to do at least once a day, not just to go to sleep, because I end up sitting at my computer so much. It's good for this old body to lie down and, just let gravity, let go of gravity, whatever. And I'll run DAT. And it's fantastic. So I hope more people learn about it, get connected to it, and try it out. Again, just stay open, being open to it. So I'm still open to whatever. I'm having a hard time reading stuff lately. Last month or so, I've got a stack of, I don't have a stack because it's all on my iPad, but things that I think I want to read. My mysteries and witch fiction, and some of the other better literature, like Stephanie Dunning's new book, Black to Nature. I'm excited about reading that. But I don't know, it's not happening. But again, who cares? it'll happen when or if it happens, and it's all fine.
Right.
So there's no seeking going on, but there really was never any seeking. There was really just finding. How lucky, how blessed I am. Wow.
All right. So this is now having heard that, this is kind of odd question, but no, I just ask anyway. So if there's anything in the future, do you have any plan or anything you want to do, like at your unit? Or well, you can consult with your between your unit and yourself. So is there anything that like are you
It's
on
all one.
Iceland or
So it's all one thing, and
Uh-huh.
there is still a planning piece that's left. So, and with all the kids I have 2 biological sons, 5 stepdaughters, and a bunch of
Wow.
grandchildren. So to get everybody together requires some planning.
Yeah.
And as the caretaker, I tend to do that planning. So we have a plan to all of us, every single one of us, to go to Cancun in Mexico next
Wow.
February for a week.
Wow.
So that will be a birthday celebration. I won't have reached it quite yet, but not far after that. It'll be for my 75th birthday. So I'm so excited. My son and daughter-in-law and new grandson, who I will meet for the first time this summer, and one of my stepdaughters, who's been in a OBGYN residency and so busy, every single one of my kids is managing to come. And my husband Julian's daughters and their partners and kids, and so yeah, that's a plan. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Everything else just this moment is just so lovely in its ordinariness and its extraordinary ordinariness, that there doesn't really need to be, the grass is greener thing, because it just feels so good. It feels so peaceful and calm most of the time, and good. It just feels good. It feels okay. It's a fundamental okayness that is always there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you your final, comments, remark, but, pretty much you said it, but if you have anything to add, but that was beautiful what you just said. It pretty much summarized being here now, just being fundamentally okay. Do you have anything else
I
to
would
add?
say that the name of Ram Dass's book, Be Here Now, makes a whole lot of sense to me now, much more sense than it did when it first came out. Yeah, just be here right now. Yeah, it's wonderful. And I encourage anyone out there to, look into the Finder's Course, the 45-day challenge. I'm happy to talk to anyone. You can put my email in if you want, if they want to talk to me further. By email or whatever. Happy to do that.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
And also, if anybody want to hang out with the people like Patti, Rebecca, Gary, or the other people I have interviewed or will interview, and you can join me on this Facebook page as well. Facebook page, Fine Art of Being True. So thank you, Patti. It was lovely. Sweet. I feel like we did a GA, group awareness exercise. So I just kind of get into that sinking in, nice feeling with you.
Thank you, Eddie. It's always a delight to be with you. And I just feel the love and sending it right back to you. And it's just all beautiful, one thing. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. It was really lovely. Thank you. Okay.
I'm very grateful.
Let's
okay.
Listen. Okay. Thank you so
That's
much.